Today, I am going to make a gift to the police. 3 river wall decors with the police badge cast in the epoxy. This project is very special to me, but why? Woodworking is my second job. My main job is working at the Dutch police force. In 2007, something special happened to me. As a 19-year-old, I was welcomed in a new family. A second family, you might say. A family that is called the police. It is hard to explain what makes working at the police so special. The hours you work aren't great. You work night shifts and every other weekend. The holidays. My wife and daughter are home alone at Christmas or New Year's Eve. You see things you don't want to see. I've seen people hang themselves, cut themselves, trying to kill themselves. I've seen a young man being pulled out of the water after being underwater for 2 hours. I have even seen a man trying to eat himself. You have a high chance of physical harm. I have been bit, assaulted, spit on, and had my ribs broken. My jaw bruised, I had multiple concussions. I can't count the times someone said he was going to kill me. But every time I get assaulted, every time someone tries to bite me, and every time someone spit on me. Every time you give first aid to someone who is dying, I look over my shoulder and a colleague is there to help me, to stand by me. And it is this kind of brotherhood that makes working at the police so special. When I call for help, they are there for me. The thin blue line, an international symbol of brotherhood between police officers. So it was time to do something back to them. I wanted to give them something to remember all the things I said before, in harder times. Those times that you seem to forget we are a family. The times you seem to forget we do almost everything for each other. Believe me, I have forgotten sometimes. So I am going to make 3 river wall decors. 1 for every location my team works at. Every piece will get the Dutch police badge casted in the epoxy. So let's get to the build. We start this project off with removing the bark of an oak slab using a chisel. Using an angle grinder and a flap disc, we clean up the live edge of the slab until it's smooth. With the track saw, we cut out the rough size of the first half of the planks. With the square edge we created, we use the table saw to cut the second half. At the miter saw, we cut each half in 3 rough sized pieces. And using a stop block, we cut all those pieces to exactly the same size. After jointing one side, we let the pieces pass through the planer a couple of times to make the pieces flat and square. Next, we lay them out so we can look which halves look best with each other. When you are casting epoxy, it is important to use a watertight mold. I make mine with some plywood scraps. To make sure the epoxy will release from the mold, I cover the plywood with packaging tape. Make sure every strip of tape overlaps the other. To really get the mold watertight, I use some chalk. Now the mold is finished, I mix up my first little batch of epoxy. I use this to seal the live edges. If you skip this part, the wood will release bubbles in the epoxy. When the epoxy has cured, it is time to fit the halves in the mold, making sure to make a tight fit. To prevent epoxy from slipping to the sides, I use some more chalk. It's a shame if epoxy will go to waste behind the slab. I use my finger to make a clean seal with the chalk. Always handy to have a helping hand around the shop. To get ready for pouring the epoxy, you have to make sure the mold is level. Each of the 3 pieces will get a different color. So I mix up 1 clear, 1 blue and 1 dark grey batch of epoxy. Make sure to stir the epoxy for 5 minutes until it's clear. For the colored ones, I add the pigment before stirring. Now the best part of any epoxy video, the pouring part. I'll let you enjoy in silence. After pouring the first layer, I let the epoxy cure for 24 hours, or until the epoxy has set to a thick substance. After this, I press the police badges so they stick in the epoxy. On top of the colored layer, I cast clear epoxy. My little workshop boss inspecting my work. Let the epoxy cure until it's fully hardened, which in my case was about 72 hours. Unscrew the mold and remove them from the pieces by tapping it with a hammer. With the track saw, I make one square edge on the pieces so I can trim them to the desired size at the table saw. Making every cut the same on all pieces ensures they will be exactly the same size when done. After this comes the tedious task of sanding. Hours of sanding, literally. I'll work my way up from 100 grit all the way up to 2000 grit, making sure to sand away any imperfections. Before sanding with the higher grits, I use my router table to give one of the pieces a rounded edge and one of the pieces a chamfered edge. Sanding from 1000 grit up to 2000 grit, I use some water to keep the sanding paper clean. Now it's time for the part I hate the most, polishing. Apply the polishing compound and use a car polish machine with a polishing pad to polish the piece until shiny. Now it's time for finishing. I use Danish oil. These pieces each get 3 coats of Danish oil. My little helper is back to put the pieces in a box, and with the plaques done, it's time to give them to my boss. Time to load them up in my car and get to work. It's a 1-hour drive. And before I give them to my boss and let you guys see the finished result, I want to say something. I have a great feeling of thankfulness to all of my colleagues and to the police, so I say thank you. Thank you for being part of my family. Thank you for being there for each other when in need. Thanks to the Dutch police force. Thanks for the 12.5 years. Thanks to every other police officer in the world. If it wasn't for you, the world would be a lot darker. You guys step forward when others step back, and you guys face what others fear. You guys are awake so others can sleep safely. You guys still had to do your job during the COVID-19 corona outbreak, while others could stay home from work. Stay safe. Hold the line. A special thanks to the Dutch police and to my boss for allowing me to make this video. A special thanks to my colleagues for appearing in this video. I couldn't have done this without you. If you share my thoughts in this video, give it a like. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section. Do you know a police officer yourself? Share this video with him or her. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. Click the little bell to turn on notifications and get notified whenever I upload new content.